Ready, set, go. The screen says go. That means we're back with David Eicholt. Another edition, second week of the Presser Review Show. David, welcome back in. Thank you for joining us this past weekend at the live event. That was a great time.
It was a really fun time, man. A lot of people showed up, and now, I mean, there was probably, outside of the little technical difficulties at first, but, we battle through adversity, smart, tough, physical, break the rock, we're good.
You're right. You're right. I wouldn't have been able to get through Friday without my time at Iowa football. We were, you know what? It was a little bit of a foreshadowing for the game. It took a little bit. The first half there, we were slow. We had to get going, but then we opened it up a little bit and it was good. You're right. A lot of people did come out. Thank you to everybody who did come out, came and saw us, David. Anybody who asked for pictures or autographs, it's on our side, and I'm sure David as well. It's weird and crazy that people support like they do, and it's what makes the Iowa football ecosystem so great. David hopped on here. He was eating he's eating a can of peanuts or something. He claims it's a breakfast sandwich. I don't know.
It's a breakfast
I don't know if
sandwich,
there's any.
dude.
I don't know if there's any protein in there or not. This guy
I got some bacon and sausage in it.
All he does is Are you just like, what does your day look like? You just head down. Plus, he's got the Starbucks. You know, this guy's caffeinated 24/7. It lives in his veins.
Of course.
What is a day? What does your week look like? What does your schedule look like during in season? Does it get any less busy at any point?
I mean, not really, but at least it's consistent. I mean, summer is just kind of up and down depending on what's going on. We need to pump out content regardless. We have to kind of force talking points, as it seems like, because all we have to go off of is spring football and kind of whatever else happens in interviews in summer. But no, at least it's more consistent. I mean, I try to get up around 7 o'clock every morning, make breakfast, get a cup of coffee, go work out, go on a walk, go do something. And then usually by about 8:30 or so, I'm pretty locked in to start writing stuff. Then at least I have more of a content plan for the most part. Of course, adding, stuff like this and everything else. It continues to ramp up. But I'll tell you, man, that's what I live for. I mean, this is what I do. I love it. I don't need it to slow down.
Somebody's got to do it, and it's you, and that's why we have you here. Like I said, Saturday, a little slow start, but we got it moving. What was your biggest takeaways? How do you feel coming off of week one? What's Iowa football? What's the status of Iowa football in the mind of David Eicholt right now?
Cautiously optimistic. I mean, I need to see them go up against Iowa State, and the Iowa State games can be really interesting, just considering their linebacker core is kind of decimated right now. I mean, they lost Caleb Bacon, what seems to be a serious injury. Hopefully, he gets back later in the year for him because, from what I've been told, he's a really, really good player. I think he was the third highest rated linebacker according to Pro Football Focus last year, so he's no slouch of a player.
Wow.
Will McLaughlin's also going to be out. Yeah, so if I'm Tim Lester, I'm scheming to get Luke Lachey, getting a third-string linebacker guarding him. I'm running the ball with Caleb Johnson. I think that was a great response by Caleb Johnson after being suspended in that first half to go out there and do what he did. And got to give credit to Cade. I didn't call for Cade to be benched, but I'll tell you, I was probably about 1 to 2 drives away from saying you might want to throw in Sullivan. But for Cade to go out there and respond the way he did, you have to give him props. And I think the play calling was different in that second half. I think they looked to stretch the field. They look to go more vertically with their passing game. Defense did what defense does. Drew Stevens, strong response by him after the way last season ended. That offense is there's potential. I think that's all I really wanted to see.
Yeah, I'll probably say it tonight on our show that we record for tomorrow. Obviously, this comes out earlier today, or right after this is recorded, it'll come out. Tomorrow, you'll hear the normal show in our preview app. And it's hard to judge against an FCS team, like, and be it not, they're not going to win the FCS championship this year, probably.
Yeah.
But it's still good to see 40-0. It's still good to see production, because there have been years, like the last couple of years, where we play these teams and we don't see that. So,
that's why I don't get people clowning on Iowa. Like, look at what Iowa's been through the last couple of years offensively. So the fact they're putting up 40 against anybody, like, what are you going to do? Clown them for running up the score? They weren't running up the score. They were just executing their new offense.
Right. Yeah, like the narrative is like, well, you played an FCS team. Well, yeah, but you don't control who's lining up across from you. So regardless, you want to do as good as you can. They did pretty good. So sure, it might not be as telling as this weekend. I think the season really starts this weekend. I don't know what Troy
Yeah.
has, but um that might be
They're
a
replacing a whole lot. I mean,
yeah.
that's gonna be another game where they're obviously better than Illinois State, but that's the game Iowa should win by 3 to 4 touchdowns at least.
Yeah.
And the other part is, what about Oregon? They struggle with a lower ranked FCS team than Iowa did. Iowa put up 10 more total points than Oregon did all game. And Oregon, it took them to the fourth quarter to really secure the game.
I mean, I saw that late and pulled it up on my phone before I went to sleep on Saturday, and I was like, "Wow, this is
Yeah.
interesting." So, it's a nice little refresher as we get deep into the full slate of college football here that um, anybody can win at any time, and there's a reason they play the games. And these guys have players too; they're on scholarship too. Uh, and people aren't going to lay down. So, but yeah, I think I'm right there with you. I think cautiously optimistic is good. I think, and of course, it's like such an obvious thing, but I think you could predict a lot more about the rest of the season when we get past Minnesota
Yeah.
versus what we can say right now. And obviously that makes sense, I know, but I think it'll be drastically better easier to kind of say what we have and really break down, okay, where's our ability here? Cuz right now, and I actually want to get your opinion on this cuz it's something I had on the notes for last week that I just never brought up. Listening to Coach Lester on Lystico's podcast I think it was Lystico. Um, over the summer, he said something like, "Well, it'd be great to cut it in half," talking about the
Yep.
ranking of the offense. I think he said he did that when he took over at Western Michigan or something. They cut it in half that first year, and that was their goal. Cutting it in half, which we were dead last year, absolutely dead last by a mile. Cutting it in half is like we might win the national championship. I think Iowa fans would just like to see
They would.
an offensive ranking that doesn't have a 1 in front of it. Like we want to be in the double digits, not the triple digits. And after 1 week, and again, it's FCS, although a lot of teams played some lower competition this week. We're 40th in the country. We hit almost 500 yards of offense the other day, which seemed like a freaking miracle. Defensively, we come out of the first week, we allowed less than 200 yards, and we're looking at like 22nd or 21st in the country. So top 40 in both, which if you said that the Hawks at the end of the year were going to be in top 40 in both, then some people better be worried because this could be a team.
What do you think people would be more concerned about or more questioning? How the hell did Iowa get top 40 offense, or why the hell is Iowa's defense only in the top 40?
Why did we slip to the top 25? Yeah. It would be crazy to see. Like, I think top 25 defense. I don't know what that number would be. I'd have to go back and look at like historically where that would end up. But I think if Iowa was still a top 25 defense and had a top 40 offense, I think it would be an 11-1 team.
They're in the playoffs, and I think they at least get to the second round of the playoffs, depending on the matchup.
Right. Now, the caveat there is that we played Illinois State. We have not a tough schedule by any means, but a tougher schedule moving forward, and it starts this week. So, what do you think about that? Cutting it in half, like that would be 65th in the country. Obviously, it would be a regression from this top 40 in week 1. It seems a little aggressive to me. Not that I don't think a Division I college football coach should be aggressive in what they want out of their team. What do you think about that? Where do you think would be a success as far as a ranking? Even though I know the rankings don't matter, but they are going to be ranked something at the end of the year. What do you think a good landing spot would be?
I mean, in my opinion, the success would be top 90. I mean, that's really where I was at. It wasn't a stretch goal for me, but I thought if they could get anywhere from 90 to 95, that's a good step forward. And something we haven't talked about too, and I'll get back to the original question. The fact that Tim Lester got the wide receivers involved was the biggest thing for me.
A lot.
3 receiving touchdowns, more in the past 2 years, matched 2 years ago, last year's total.
That stat was
Reese
crazy.
Vanderzee would have led Iowa in receiving touchdowns last year among wide receivers.
After one game.
And he looks like he's going to be a dog. I was very, very impressed with him. I think it's good to have the coach that's aggressive like that because you'd rather overshoot your goals than settle, but it's a realistic goal, if that makes sense. Like, you want to continue to aim to get better and better. So you put out this, I don't want to call it a crazy number, but you put out this ultimate stretch goal because it continues to kind of work your mind about, okay, we have something to continue to grind for. We're not there yet. We haven't reached our goal yet. Yeah. But if Iowa takes that top 90, that is a tremendous first step. If Iowa has a top 5 defense, a top 5 special teams, and a top 90 offense, they are in playoff contention just by the way that Iowa plays football. Yeah. And on top of that, too, you look at that defense, Aaron Graves, he ain't coming back next year, man.
What? No, we're going to have him one more year.
He's putting some stuff on film.
If he gets 3 sacks a game, you're right. He's probably gone. He probably
won't. Yeah, but
he's not going to get 3 sacks a game. He does currently lead after 1 week the nation in sacks, tied with another guy or two, which is really cool.
So I love Lester's mindset. I meant to answer your question. I love Lester's mindset. That's exactly where you want to be at. And again, I think it's cautious optimism. And the biggest thing for me is the fact that post game, because 5 of their 6 drives in the second half were touchdowns, right? They played once. Cade's focus was on how bad they were in the first half, and they want to start hotter. So the fact that a team that has struggled so much offensively was not resting on what they accomplished. Again, I don't care if it's an FCS team. Iowa's offense had to see something happen like that, right? Yep. Just to get that baseline confidence. The fact that they are focused on their slow start gives me a little bit of optimism, more optimism going into Iowa State.
For sure. And I think as we swing it to the actual press review of this thing, which is what we're here to do, and I just took us off course for 12 minutes about a recap of the game, which is cool. It's all right. People like the content.
Go with it.
It's what Coach Ferentz kind of came out, and he was pretty – I mean, it was pretty vanilla from him, even though he did seem relaxed. He seemed relaxed, happy to be back in the building for sure. I think he's ready to put this behind him and not have to answer any more questions about what he was doing at home. Although he made a couple of great jokes in this press conference talking about, someone's like, not to take you back home. And he's like, oh, it's a great place to be. Mary's made a great house. And talking about making eggs with his grandson and didn't know what to do at halftime. And Mary
he was like being civil with Mary, like.
Oh God, the jokes were, he said he didn't realize at one point that they had like broke. I think it was Caleb Johnson's big touchdown. He like broke off, and KF actually said that he like admitted that he like clapped and like was verbally happy about it. And Mary was like in the room and didn't like. It's hilarious to see fan Kirk for sure, or get a slight insight into that. But did you feel that in the room? Was that felt like? Did it seem like he was sort of relaxed and maybe? I don't know. Like it felt fun.
I think I was kind of waiting for him to get emotional, and he just never got emotional.
Yeah,
because there are times in those press conferences where Kirk does get emotional, no doubt. But like the fact that he didn't break on the fact that. He missed game day and he actually had to experience it as a fan. And this is why I tell people when people ask me what Kirk's going to do, look, I don't know what Kirk's going to do long term. I think he's around for 4 to 5 years. But experiences like when COVID hit, like when he had to sit home on Saturday, that's when he realizes, oh my God, I'm not ready to retire.
Yeah. It opens his eyes to, holy shit, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell else I do all day.
like I could quite honestly, like, I really could see him in the way that, and I don't know if everyone knows this, but the way that Reese Morgan stays around the program, I could very much so if the next head coach hire is from inside the Coach Ferentz tree, if it's LeVar Woods or if it's Seth Wallace or somebody else that even has a close tie to Coach Ferentz, I could see Coach showing up every morning with that coffee you got there and just being there. Like I just, just as like hey, I'm around the program and I'm going to show face all the time, and this is what it's going to be. But you can tell he hated not being at the game. Just said he felt disconnected. Said he felt disconnected. It was sterile. You don't feel that investment that you have when you're there, and you could tell he just did not like it. And I'm with you. I think you can kind of tell that like he's pretty clearly not ready to put that away. So I don't know. Back to that 65.
It was kind of fun. It was kind of fun to hear him though too. I mean, like you said, I had two scrambled eggs. I had a grandson over. Like I didn't know what to do at halftime. I didn't have to go give a speech or a pep talk or anything.
Yeah.
I just imagine Kirk singing his big was it Lazy Boy? Yeah. Just like twiddling his thumbs, just waiting.
Oh man, yeah.
He's got his notepad writing down all the penalties in the first half.
Wasn't happy about the penalties either, and I know for a fact that he was. He might not have been like Phil Parker MFing some people, but he was not happy about that. Definitely one of his first notes or his biggest notes on his card. He did say that he had a hard surface to write on. So I think that confirms he was taking his notes while he was at home. I mean, obviously, why not? He probably took more than normal because he didn't have to do other stuff. And then early on when they were talking about Iowa State or kind of just generally coming out of week one, he said they're really clean on the injury front. And I get it. I know it's only week one here, but we talked about it last week. I mentioned it last week. I'm going to mention it every week. Health is one of the number one factors. It might be the same level of importance as just your team's general talent level in determining how well your season ends up. And Iowa's got as you mentioned, Iowa's got the edge there in this one. Iowa versus Iowa State, these two teams don't need any extra stuff to have to deal with. And Iowa State is dealing with that. You mentioned the bacon guy. I don't know this guy outside of the cool NIL deal that they signed last year when they had eat more ham and bacon or purchase more ham and bacon.
Purchase more ham and bacon.
Yeah. Unbelievable. So perfect for Iowa and an unbelievable NIL deal for those guys. Obviously, he's the last part of that. I didn't know that he was such a big part of their team. I don't follow Iowa State. So to hear that he went down early sucks just as a former athlete. Obviously, you want him to get back, but he's not going to be back this Saturday. Supposedly was like their best defender or one of. And
Chris Williams of Cyclone Fanatic called him that he's arguably Iowa State's best defender.
And then you said who else is going to be out?
Will McLaughlin, who's another linebacker. So they have two linebackers out.
Jeez.
And then they have two offensive linemen that got dinged up. They're both supposed to be back, but I mean, who knows if they're going to be 100%. And if you're lining up against Y.A. Black and Aaron Graves, I mean, if you're not 100%, that's a scary matchup for them too.
I'm really excited to see what those two do against better competition because I don't think they're going to slow down. I don't think better competition really slows them down. They've been talking about Y.A. Black for a couple of years now, how he is dominant. And Aaron Graves, I think people knew was going to be dominant about the time he committed to Iowa and said, nobody please contact me. I'm a Hawkeye.
At 14 years old, remember, by the way.
His recruitment is one of the more fascinating things. He as a person fascinates me. I hope that he someday comes on the podcast when he's done. So excited about that. Clean on the injury front for us. And then he talked about the Iowa State game just as a whole, like what it means to the state, how it is rivalry wise, how it's underappreciated on a national level. And there's a lot of discourse on this game, David, about should we play this game? Should Iowa play this game? A lot of it's been, should Iowa play this game? Because some people see it as a no-win situation. Like, cool, you beat Iowa State, you were supposed to, or, oh no, you lost to Iowa State. That's not good. And you subject yourself to that every year. I think it's a no-brainer to play this game. Like, I don't know why Michigan State wouldn't play every year. Iowa State wouldn't play every year. Auburn, Alabama. Like, I don't know why you wouldn't play the other big school in your state. I think it makes so much sense. But it seemed like from Kirk's point of view, I think he really does like this game. Like, he's outside of just being the coach of Iowa, I think as an Iowan, I think he enjoys this game being a part of, the football story in Iowa every year.
I agree. And I also think that Kirk Ferentz genuinely respects Matt Campbell and the job that he's done at Iowa State because, like, Look, I know I've taken my pot shots at Iowa State. There's no secret. I have a lot of respect for what Matt Campbell's done because to take what is inarguably a bottom 10 football program of all time and to turn it into a national talking point, it seems like every single year in the Big 12 at this point, it's impressive. Rivalry aside, you have to tip your cap to them. Yes, there's the 10-win punch. There's some easy punchlines, whatever. Iowa's offense is a punchline. Like, that's just what good rivalries are, right? You just take pot shots at them. But I think you're right. I think that's really ramped up, especially over the past several years, because if you look at the last, I think, 8 years, I think only one game's been decided by double digits, maybe two, and that was Iowa by 10 in both. But it's never been decided by more than 10 points, it feels like, for a long, long time. You had to remember there's a triple overtime game.
Yeah, not since we trashed them in 16, I think.
I think that was the one I'm talking about. Yeah, I think that was the one that was.
We
and then the next year was. And then
my
what? 2 years later, it was Emir
my
Smith
senior
Marset,
year in
right?
17 was the double OT Smith Marset touchdown at the end. Yeah.
Okay, that
was my senior year. So
yep.
That game, yeah, like you said, that game right there in 17 to now kicked off a spree of games that are decided basically by one score. It just is the way it is. Like, like if there's any fans of the Iowa State matchup that think this is going to go differently on Saturday, they're probably wrong. You're just like,
that probably includes me.
Well, and it's funny you say that because I woke up this morning. I've actually had the flu yesterday that I was dealing with, and I haven't had time to think about football at all. But I finally felt a little bit better this morning, and I knew we were going to be doing this podcast today and a podcast tonight. And I thought to myself, I don't know what it is, but I kind of had the feeling that this might be one of those outlier games where Iowa wins. I don't know if I'm ready to stamp my approval on that, like my personal Tyler Kluber, but something is leaning me that way. I haven't made my final decision on how I think this is going to go, but are you leaning that way as well?
I think Iowa wins by double digits. Okay. I think the thing that's swaying me is three factors, right? One, I'm not trusting a first-year offensive coordinator to dice up Phil Parker. I'm not.
That's a factor. I forgot that they also have a first year. Yeah.
I have respect for Rocco Beck. The way he developed over the course of last year was pretty incredible, to be honest. Jalen Knoll, Jaden Higgins, those are two very dynamic receivers. Iowa secondary thrives on not allowing explosive plays.
Yeah.
Two, it's at Kinnick Stadium.
Yeah.
It's at Kinnick Stadium. Three, why is nobody talking about the Kirk factor? Do you know how juiced up the players are going to be even more so? And the crowd is going to be even more juiced up to have Kirk Ferentz back on the sidelines. Tyler, I was 3 years old last time Kirk was not on the sideline for an Iowa football game.
Yeah.
It's going to be crazy.
I agree with that in the beginning. I don't know if that hype extends in a meaningful way to the scoreboard throughout the entirety of the game. I do agree that the energy and the hype will be all time on Saturday. I think it's going to be on the same level as like Penn State 2021 when we were into that matchup.
Yeah.
Kirk, like it's going to be one of those kinds of games. This is a 2:30 game, right?
Correct. On CBS.
So this is so the sun is going to kind of start to set by the end of this thing. It's a primetime matchup. Like this is going to be a fun football game. And then going back to some of the stuff he said in the press conference, we talked a lot about Moulton last week. I don't know why or what happened with KJ and why he was suspended for a half. Clearly, he's still pretty good at running back, and he showed that in the second half. And I don't know. I think Moulton's still listed as the RB1.
He is.
Which means that this wasn't a total fluke, but I think a lot of that might have been the KJ suspension and the LaShawn injury. And I think, like you said, they just have to put a name down. There's going to be a lot of Caleb Johnson.
No doubt. He's perfect for this type of matchup too. And that's the other part, because again, and the thing that stood out to me about what Kirk said yesterday, you remember I came on here a week ago, we talked about Caleb Johnson, about why he was running back 3. Remember I said he needs to improve as a practice player?
And Kirk came out and said he's been doing great.
Kirk said he's been playing really, really well. And that's something I don't remember him ever saying about Caleb Johnson. And again, that's something that kind of makes the gears turn a little bit and the eyebrows a little bit. So I think he's going to play a significant role. The other thing is I'm curious to see what Jazz Patterson's role is going to be. Yeah. Because we asked Kirk about that, and he said he was held out due to a coaching decision. But Jazz is back in the building on Sunday. He's doing good. And, I still think Jazz is going to be a part of this Iowa running attack. I think it's not irresponsible if he's not, but he's proven he can produce in some of these type of games as well.
This game last year, the other part about the injury, he had a huge block.
Yep. And again, I think he's Iowa's best pass protector. Now, Caleb Johnson, I actually thought had a few good pickup blitzes in that second half when he was put in there. And that's something I've been kind of waiting to see from him just because, he's built like a Greek god, Tyler. Like, he's just a big, strong dude. He's built like an NFL back. But the other part also, when it comes to injuries, I meant to bring up earlier, Seth Anderson's going to be out for another week. I think that's notable. Caden Weechen's still listed as a starter. Caleb Brown is going to be back in the mix. We'll see how much he plays. As Kirk said, I'd be surprised if he wasn't a significant part, just because I still think he's perfect for the Tim Lester system. Sean Block reported earlier this week on our site that Caleb was actually out doing community service on Saturday as part of his punishment and was not at the game. But he's kind of flipped a different gear mentally and maturity-wise, that he kind of knows he needs to stay the course if he wants to achieve where he wants to get to. And that was from talking to a few sources close to Caleb and the team. So if that's the case for Caleb, maybe it served as a wake-up call. Maybe this could be the best thing for him on and off the field, and certainly hope so. And the other part, too, is you've played for Kirk. You've been around him. He said he never brings up the past unless there's a reason to bring up the past. And that's something that's very significant to me when it comes to situations like this.
I think you're right. And certainly, I think it doesn't always work out this way, but I do think you're right. I think, a little bit of humble pie and not just the fact that you have to do community service. Like, that's not even the important part. It's being taken.
No, yeah.
The fact that you're being taken away from what you love and basically what your life is set out to do for the next 3 to 4 years. That's the big part that sort of awakens you. And you're like, okay, I want to make sure that I'm here and I'm taking advantage of this. So not that it's some like big life moment, but it's a bump in the road for him. And I do think he's our best receiver. I'm glad you bring up the receivers. It's where I wanted to kind of cap today's podcast. Seth Anderson still out. Coach Ferentz said that the day after last week, they had the press conference Wednesday. He tweaked it. He did say that it looks better than maybe initially they thought. It's not going to be like a 4+ week thing. Hopefully it's just a couple weeks. But like you said,
I think they said it's possible to get him back next week.
That would be great. I wonder, though, with the emergence of RVZ, which is such a sick abbreviation.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Caleb Brown coming back, who I think is arguably our best pure talent at the position.
Yes.
We have a healthy Luke Lachey and Ostrenga and Ortworth. I mean, we kind of have another option there. But then you also have Weechen, who hasn't done anything on the receiving end yet, but I think he will. He had a couple sweep motions last year where when he gets going, it's hard to catch him. He's very quick.
Yeah.
Is our receiving core potential? I mean, again, another thing that we'll know better in 4 weeks, but is our receiving core maybe we're a little more solid than Iowa fans thought? Like, if we can just unlock the receivers with this new offense and with some new schemes, like, we're actually okay in the receiving core. And then we're going to get Seth Anderson back.
I think it's passable. Another thing, we got to bring up Jacob Gill.
Jacob Gill. That's who I forgot. He's the one who scored the other touchdown. I mean, we're kind of deep.
Well, Jacob Gill on that play, but first of all, that was a hell of a ball by Cade on that 31-yard touchdown. Like, it looked like some people said it was a little bit underthrown. Absolutely not. He put the ball where only Jacob Gill could have a chance to go grab it. Because if you remember, Jacob Gill is double covered. And Luke Lachey even said after the game, I was ready to go tackle somebody. It didn't look like a great throw. And then you just see Jacob Gill break away from those two guys. You're thinking, oh, how many Iowa receivers have we seen do that over the past few years? It's been a while.
Yeah, I mean, it looks.
With respect to everybody who's played the position, but like, who's done that?
Honestly, the thing it reminded me of most was maybe like going back to Germany Smith, who that's the name that came to mind when I saw that play was Germany Smith, and he was there as a freshman, I think my junior year, and then ran into some issues, and his career didn't quite pan out like it. I wish it would have, because he was a great talent that we had, and made some huge plays his freshman year. I totally forgot about Jacob Gill. I mean, that was an amazing play. Amazing throw by Cade, a throw where you have to throw your guy open, because when he throws that ball, there is no window, but he throws it to the spot where he's going to be. And that's just something we haven't seen in the last couple of years. And having
the route trees look so much better too. I mean, they're getting open. I mean, the first half, it really wasn't about guys getting open. Cade wasn't making the right reads, and his footwork was a little bit sloppy because he's feeling actual pressure for the first time. But if you look at the film, there were guys that were maybe, now granted, they might have been third or fourth option on, the progressions. Tyler, they were getting open. I mean, I can remember last time I watched Iowa receivers get open last year.
Well, yeah, there was a lot of issues the last few years.
No,
a lot of issues.
Again, I'm not throwing them under the bus. It's
just no, you can throw them all under the bus. There's a lot of issues.
That's just the significant impact that they've had. Again, I want to see against Iowa State, because Iowa State secondary is no joke. It's not Iowa level, but very, very few teams are Iowa level. But Iowa State's, they got some damn players on that secondary.
No, that's and I don't know what the effect of Bacon being out, but this is a good place to kind of cap this is.
Yeah.
With Bacon, I think, and his evident importance to that defense, they're a top 25 defense. I don't know where they land now, but this is going to be different than Illinois State. And so, not that it really matters, but I know that there's going to be an offensive regression in this game from week 1 to week 2. And it's strictly opponent based, right? We're not going to score 40 on Iowa State probably. And that's okay. We probably don't need to. I wonder though where we do end up. I'm very curious to see, because it can't be 7 or 10. Like, it has to be in the 20 to 30 point range probably. Not only to win the game, but to also feel good about, okay, what we saw week 1 was legit. Like, we actually have made steps with Tim Lester in this new offense. So I don't know. Give me a little David Eichholt prediction. What do you see here? Give me like a final score, ballpark. Where do you see this ending up?
One, I think it's heavy dose Caleb Johnson. I think Caleb Johnson has a real chance to run the football effectively. North Dakota ran the ball really well against Iowa State. I think Iowa State's D-line will come out and play a lot better than they did against North Dakota. I think their goal is to get Luke Lachey and Aston Ostrenga open, have 3 third-string linebackers guard them. And if for some reason they want to bring up the safety, Bo Freiler to go cover Luke Lachey, I think Cade and Tim Lester are going to go test them deep and make the secondary make a play.
Yeah.
I have Iowa winning 24-13.
Okay.
I don't think Abu Sama is going to be able to run the football very well against Iowa. I think the O-line of Iowa State needs to do more. I think Rocco Becht makes some big plays. I do think they get a couple chunk plays, but I don't think Iowa gives up like a 70-yard touchdown or anything. I think they hold them to a couple field goals. They will get in the end zone one time. But if you're asking me, again, it goes back to the first factor I said. I'm trusting Phil Parker's defense to top a first-year coordinator, despite how much experience that Iowa State brings back. I will say, though, I think Iowa State's going to be even a better team next year. I think they go 9-3, 10-2 next year if they retain all the talent. Yeah, I mean, I think the pieces are there for them to do it, but that's not this year. I think Iowa handles them.
David Eicholt's way too early Big 12 prediction. Love that.
Yeah.
I'm
always thinking ahead. What can I say?
We'll talk next year.
Bookmark it, whatever. Yeah.
No, we can. I'll remember this. We'll clip it. We'll clip it for like 14, 15 months from now.
Yeah. It'll be a hell of a tease.
Hopefully they go like 5-7, and I can post it and be like, "Look how dumb David is.
Look at this dumbass. This so-called experts."
Yeah, for real. Well, that was our presser recap. A little bit of a game recap, game preview, and press recap all in one. That's what you're going to get on this episode each and every week. That's David Eicholt from 247 Sports. David, thanks for joining me. We'll talk next week again.
Appreciate you, bud.
Thank you everybody for listening. You'll hear this immediately once I get it up, and then pause. Pause.
Yeah, it's a little sus.
And then you'll hear the main episode tomorrow. Awards winners, all of that. Talk to you then. Peace.